We talked a little bit about this before, was around mentors. And, throughout my career, I've had some mentors. I've not had a consistent placement of mentors. I didn't proactively seek them out as I should have early on in my career, but I've really seen the value of them as I've matured in
Sure.
career and in life. I'm curious as to your philosophy on mentors. What contributions have they made in your career, and how have you served as a mentor as well?
Yeah, thank you. So in my early career, there were two people in my early selling world, two different companies. But as a 24, 5-year-old new seller, number one, they were experienced, and they were willing to give me a chance and willing to watch me fail, pick me up, and help me move along. Now, I was actually selling to one of these individuals. So he would put me in his car and we'd be on the road, and I learned so much for my 10 years selling with him. But I was selling to him, right? Or I should say through him. But the fact that he would spend that quality time, and if I asked him today, he's probably 77, 78 years old, he wouldn't even recognize how much he helped me from a mentorship perspective. So and there's a little bit around constructive mentoring, meaning, giving you a playbook is one thing and helping you through it. But the rigors of saying, Charlie, twice a month, we're going to be on the road, we're going to have some success together, watching that person be successful was really impactful. So that's the subtlety of how he helped me. The second gentleman that comes to mind was a hardcore guy from Boston. And at 29, Carson, I was put into a regional management position way above my capability. At least in my own mind, but this person saw that ability in me. So going from a small company doing several $1 million a year in annual revenue to one doing almost 100 million at 29 and being the sales guy, the sales leader, was a wonderful opportunity. That company, I should share it. So Boise Cascade Office Products had an amazing internal program for Notre Dame School of Finance that you get to go through as leaders and some of these things. But this gentleman, Jim, he made sure that if it was a situational element, he never left me alone, meaning he knew I needed that guidance on a large opportunity. I needed that guidance on a corporate conversation or contract. And through that 10 years, I mean, we're talking charter, we're talking Anheuser-Busch major long-term contracts. So, again, what I enjoy about the conversation is with him, he had been through this process, and literally said, I know when to leave you alone. I know when I need to be with you to make sure you're comfortable. And then at some point, he would just simply go, okay, you've been here 2 years, you're getting it. The team is 100% around you as the team. And frankly, I want to have you tiptoe in the water, and I'm okay if you fail by yourself. But that risk opportunity right there was really substantial for me, because at some point you got to fly on your own. So those are two people, and it was really the care and conviction that they gave me to walk the walk with me that was so substantial over time. So those are big pieces. I've had one other mentor who was really good about going back to that, giving me the playbook. He didn't necessarily want to be in the car or in every meeting with me, but as an operations leader, and I mean that, not a sales leader, but a true operations leader, he would help me navigate some of those things that I never had experienced and may not have as a sales leader to understand. So I guess to summarize that general segment around people who've mentored me, care and conviction was substantial. Call at 9 o'clock at night, call it Sunday at noon, get me through what was necessary and do all those things. And I would say if I've mentored people, and I believe I have, but I think similarly, the way I try and treat people, I think lends itself to a mentoring through I'm willing to do what I ask anybody in the world to do, from the toilet cleaning to the signing of $1 million contract. So as I build a team, back to the original segment or to this segment, I've had folks come to me and say, I want you to be a mentor that for the next 2 years, we meet once a month, and I want to walk you through the process of what I did and tell me your options and opinions on what you might do based on the whole story. So that's been a treat. But back to that team building, there's an opportunity every time you talk to an individual to understand what's going on with the situation, and that is maybe professional and personal, and help them navigate the waters to get to the point to get the job done. So I think overall, that's how I approach being a sales leader, being a channel leader today, and being any type of mentor, is that I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to help navigate through the personal slash, professional challenges that might be holding you back from making a move. And I make this comment, and I'm not proud of it to some degree, but I make a joke, and it's not a joke, actually, it's sincere. If you can ever really mess up as big as this situation, and I've told every seller, I gave them a scenario that I won't repeat now because contractually I don't think I can. I made a huge mistake offering a chief procurement officer the cards to throw me under the bus, but I also learned from that lesson. So I put those sellers in if you can do worse than this situation that I created, I may hold you accountable. I try and create playfulness with it, but at the end of the day, it's real for me. And that's that CPO. That's a lesson, right, in its own right. He specifically understood that I messed up. He held me accountable on the front end of a 10-year contract, but let me get it back in years 4 through 10. And talk about a life lesson. So he won, I won, and that's how it worked out for us. But just ultimately, I hope I'm the kind of person who lends an ear and is willing to dig in whenever is critical to get something done.
I love it. Yeah, Charlie, I agree with everything you said. And I would say my philosophy around mentorship is, the tried and true around just teaching in general. As an individual contributor or even as a leader, it's often that, if you look at just your own body of work, you're only going to reach the top of the mountain a limited number of times in your career, right? And you hoist up, you close that big deal, and you feel like you're on top of the world. And then you go into the next day and you've got a quota that you're staring down yet again. So, but if you teach and if you coach and if you impact, you can have, reward that lasts a lifetime and true creation of relationships. And that's what I think is really at the heart of what you said. I think sometimes we stumble around the makeup of mentorship. We think that it's got to be some formal, this is the process. And you know what? It may look like that for certain relationships, but, mentorship for me is like coaching. Coaching can happen in a 10-minute segment, just off the cuff. And in a brief moment of time, mentorship and mentoring type of discussions can be had. And I think, too, I've gravitated more as I've gotten older around this board of advisors concept. Depending on what the situation is, I may bounce it off a certain group of core people that are close to me. But for something unrelated, for something else, I may go to this group or, different folks based on what is transpiring in my life or career. I also believe in mentors in the moment. I think sometimes when we think about mentors, we think, oh, well, I'm committing to this person's my mentor for forever, right? It's not really like that. I've got a lot of people who were mentors in the moment, in critical moments in my career, maybe when I had a really tough setback or when I needed some advice or needed to really figure out, what's the right next move. And so those mentors in the moment can be of huge impact. I've always sought out best practices. I want to know who is doing something better than I'm doing, because I can only learn from them. And I can, if I can assimilate some element of what they're doing into my process, I'm going to get better. So early on in career, I did a lot of that, but I didn't necessarily have formal mentors. But as I've gotten older and more seasoned in career, I've proactively sought out recommendations for, this is what I'm looking to achieve. Who would be the right coach? Who would be the right mentor for that type of a situation? And that's helped me a tremendous amount. And then back to that kind of board of advisors mentality, that has helped me really develop mind share about career, about the way of approaching a relationship, a deal, a client dynamic, anything may have you. So mentorship is very important. I've gotten a lot of personal fulfillment as well, being sought out for mentoring. And, those types of relationships, it's not your job to tell them what to do. It's merely the role to, as you said, to care, to connect, to listen, to understand where they're coming from, and maybe guide them based on your experience to another outcome.